Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to the stream, and I just thought I would do another one pretty soon after my last one this week because we've got the second half of the Heritage Special. It's like their pre-code horror and pre-code crime auction that's going on this week. So they had the first big half of it yesterday. Bought a couple things on the one yesterday. I bought a number of books over the last few days, specifically a lot of pre-code horror and pre-code crime. And so I don't really want to buy anything else tonight. So I thought, hey, I'll go live during the stream and we'll see some awesome books. It started about an hour ago, and I wanted to time this to start right when the Punch Comics was going to hit this, and so that it looks like I did it just about right because right now they're on item 481, and Punch Comics, the first one that comes up is item 490. So it's coming up soon. Just a few items until it gets here. So that'll be cool to see because one of them that is it's in that group is Punch Comics number 12. And what I also thought might be fun to talk about tonight was some of the big sales that happened yesterday, because I tracked a bunch of books from this auction. I think about 173 books. I think 91 of them yesterday, and then whatever the rest of that is today. So 73 plus 9, so 82. So about 82 today. This is a huge auction. There are some big books in this one, but there's a lot of what I would call filler, like pre-code crime and pre-code horror filler books. But they've got some big books in here too, and one of them went earlier tonight already for, I believe, $9,600. A Mysterious Adventures 13. So we'll talk about that one. That was a huge sale. But I'm going to throw up the auction up here just so you can see it, because we've got Punch Comics coming up pretty quick because it's moving through these kind of filler books real fast. So I'm just going to add this to the stream. So now you can see it. If you are not familiar with Heritage, it's a big auction house. They sell all kinds of stuff. They're most well known for coins. That's where they really started, but they also do comic auctions. They have a weekly one that I talk about a lot that's on Sunday and Monday. They sometimes do these specialized ones like this one that's specifically for pre-code crime and horror, which they timed right around Halloween, which I'm sure was intentional. And then they also have these big signature auctions that happen once every about 6 weeks. And that's when you see the really cool stuff like the Tech 27s, Action 1, Superman 1, all those really big books, as well as just other really high grade books where you get a lot of keys in their weekly auctions. But then when you get to those signature ones, it's like you get the keys, but they're really high grade, the 9.0s, 9.2s, 9.8s, books that just cost a ton. It's just fun to see them come up for sale. I am almost never bidding in the signature auctions because the books are just way outside of my league. But it is fun to watch them and see those ones come up. So like I said, we are on item 487 right now. And we've got just a few more until we hit the first Punch Comics book. The first one is Punch Comics 10, which I actually unboxed a copy of that in a 5.5 recently. This one up here right now is a 5.0. This is going to be coming up, but I had a 5.5 in my last unboxing, which was real exciting because I think a 4.5, I think it was a 4.5 sold for a little over $1,000 a week ago. So it'll be interesting to see how this one does, because this auction isn't at the normal time. And we also had a lot of people that were bidding yesterday, spent a lot of money yesterday. And so I'm interested to see how much bidding is actually going to go on in this second part, because this is a lot of pre-code horror and crime books all at once. It's over 800 books in this entire auction, which is just a ton. And so I think it might overwhelm the demand a bit. But yeah, we should be having the Punch Comics book come up right now because this one just ended. So this should be Punch Comics number 10. We'll see how this one does. And you saw there's a real big jump right there. Jumped up to 660. What did I price this one at? I almost might want to. It's up at 720 now. I was going to say I almost want to bid on that one. But yeah, so you can see I can't actually bid on them if I want to. I'm not. And see, someone just threw another bid. So the way Heritage works is they do one item at a time. And if somebody throws in a bid, then it adds about another 6 or 7 seconds or so onto the clock. And then when it hits 5 seconds, it counts down. And then you have to get your bid in or it moves on. So that one went for $780, which I actually think was a pretty good price for whoever picked it up. I had estimated that one at $900. Now here we've got Punch Comics 11. Some people would call this the first horror cover because you've got that skull on the cover. This one I had estimated at 2,500. It is already, let's see, what did it go for? That one went for 2640, so just a little over my estimate. And now here's a big book. This is Punch Comics number 12. This is one of the most expensive, what you might call horror comics out there. But this one, it's a crime cover, but it's got that skull. It's already at 18,000. I estimated this one at 22,000. Because a 5.5, if it was an actual 5.5 Universal, it would go for 70,000, something like that. But if this one this one just says color touch, but it's C2, which means you might have to cut pieces out, that kind of thing. But I mean, at worst, you might end up with like a 2.5. I think whoever got that stole that book. 18,600. I think they got a steal on that book. So congratulations to whoever picked that one up, because that's great. This is also another great cover. So let's see, what did I have that one at? That was a big sale. For that Punch 13, I had that one estimated at 18,500. And that went for 3,120. So that was a really big sale for that one. Now, the interesting thing with Punch Comics is that, yeah, the little lazy auctioneer. That's so funny. Yeah, I'll show that. so yeah, they don't do live auctions in these ones. The live auctions are only in their signature auctions, where they actually do have a person out there talking and selling everything. These ones are all automated, just like Comic Link, Comic Connect, any of those other auction houses. But yeah, they show the picture of the person. They occasionally change it too. So yeah, that's pretty funny. But I just want to check the comments a little bit. And well, we've got a couple other cool Punch comics coming up. It's a really interesting run. It jumps around between kind of like horror or really violent covers to kind of crime type covers to then actually some kids covers, like that you would also call like kid comics, because the interiors are actually really very for very young audiences, which is why the covers are so weird to see on these books. Because if you actually see the interior, it's stuff like you might see like Popeye kind of comics in there. So it's a really strange mix where you've got some super violent covers, because you'll see this next one with Punch Comics 19, which is one of my favorite covers from the entire run. And I just want to watch that one because maybe I don't know if I want to bid on that one or not. I estimated it at 2,500. It's already at 2,280, so it's already doing pretty good. So we'll see how it ends up. This is a 7.5. This is a high grade copy of this book. So it's sitting at, I think that's 2,280 right now. We'll see if it gets any more. Yep, there we go. So now it's at 2,520, 2,640. So the reason I know that is that they have what's called a buyer's premium. And so you never really pay attention to the actual bid number. You pay attention to this with BP. That's with buyer's premium. And so that's the actual price. That's what actually gets reported to like cover price and GPA and Go Collect and all of that. This is another great book. I had a 5.0 or a 5.5 that I sold recently of this one. This is actually a pretty controversial cover because the women on the cover there, you can see it says exposed breasts on there. So the women on the cover, they don't have tops on, and so it's one of those ones where it's a little bit of a controversial cover, especially since these books are from the mid 40s. I mean, these are pretty early, what you'd call horror type covers. So I think this is the last issue in the Punch Comics run. I think it might be the last issue entirely. But yeah, now it's going to move on to some other books, and we'll get to some other ones that I'm watching in a little bit. Then there's kind of some, just some books I'm not purposefully paying attention to in this, but I know Purple Claw is one that some people like. That one, I always think it's kind of a funny cover because you've got this guy that just has this purple hand, and it's just that not very creative title or anything like that. But yeah, let me check out the chat real quick and see. Yeah, so yep, there was the Punch Comic section. A lot of those went pretty strong, and surprisingly, the one that went weak, in my opinion, was the Punch 12. I mean, that one really went low. Punch 10 went a little low too, but I would have thought that one would have broken 20,000. But I think part of the challenge with that book in this auction is the number of people that are watching it right now. The amount of money that's actually in the room competing for these books right now is probably not that high, because it's one of these specialized auctions that's at a kind of a weird time for heritage comic auctions. And because I think the biggest book I've seen sell other than that one was 9,600. And so that book sold for like over 18,000, almost double the other bigger book. And so I don't think that this auction is really set well for a $20,000-$30,000 type book. There probably just isn't the money there. And so that's why I could see someone trying to grab a book like that, thinking they might be able to get something like that, and then try to have the restoration removed and then get it regraded, see if they can get that blue label. Now, the tricky part, like I said, is that was a C2 and it was just color touch, but C2 means it's basically marker on that cover, and that cover is almost all black. And so they're going to probably have to cut out a bunch of pieces. And so, yeah, they might get a 2.5, but it might end up being a really poor looking 2.5. It just depends. C2 is actually can be quite a bit of color touch on that cover. Yep. So I'm not sure what this one is, what's coming up in November 17th. That could, I don't know if that's the next signature auction. That could be it. Because I know they've got one coming up that has like 298 Hulk 181s in it and some other real big books in it. And I mean, Hulk 181 and a 98 set a new record on Comic Link just a couple days ago, yesterday or 2 days ago, for like 145,000, something like that, 146,000. And so, yeah, I mean, I would be very nervous buying that book at those prices right now, because I feel it feels like one of those books that, like we saw with like Amazing Fantasy 15 and that kind of thing, where it's realizing these big numbers, and now you're starting to see the books come out because there's like 150 graded in a 9.8. And if you bought it just a few years ago, say for 50 or 60,000, and now you can get 150, you can bet there's going to be people out there that are willing to sell that book for 150, hoping they can maybe buy it back cheaper later. Let's see. Sent you a link on Insta for a Crime 22 that ends in an hour on Comic Link. Might be worth keeping an eye on as well. All right, yeah, I'll check for that. It'll be. I'll try to see if I can get that over onto this page to see that. But yeah, I'll definitely check that, because if you're not familiar, Crime Suspense Stories 22 is the beheading cover done by Johnny Craig. This is one of the other books that I was watching. There's some cool books coming up here. This is Red Seal 14, which is a pretty crazy cover. And I've always felt it's pretty cheap for the cover content. I had this one valued only at $750. Its record was $1,020, and it's already at $960. So it's having a pretty strong sale. Didn't hit a record, but did better than I thought it was going to do. Those Red Seal books often, for whatever reason, they don't go for as much as I would expect them to, based on the content. Because a lot of times when you have cover content like that, it'll be a really in-demand book, and there are certain titles that just haven't really caught on. I've talked about that in some other videos as well. Like the Spirit has, I think it's Spirit. I don't remember. Oh, the Shadow. That's what it is. The Shadow has a bunch of really great covers, and they just tend to go for pretty cheap. And it's just, I don't think that those issues get as much coverage or as much attention, and so people just don't end up bidding on them. A lot of times you'll find what happens with a lot of these Golden Age books, it sometimes just takes one person putting out a real big bid or sale on one of these books, and it instantly can catapult it into the public eye, and then people start going after it. You'll see that a lot with like Matt Baker romance books. You'll have a title that has a bunch of Matt Baker romance covers. If you're not feeling Matt Baker, he's one of the top pre-code or Golden Age good girl art artists, good girl art cover artists. And you'll have these romance books where a bunch of them are, maybe they'll sell for $500, $600, whatever it might be in a mid grade. And then there's one random book that sells for like 3,000 in a mid grade. And if you look back at the history, it's just like one person paid a bunch of money for it a number of years ago. And then now that's what it does. So it can be kind of strange sometimes with Golden Age, with really rare, obscure books like that. I thought this was a really cool cover too. I had this one estimated at 1,500. Oh man, and that one's getting bid up. That's at 1,800 now. I just think that's such a cool cover. You've got kind of like a Grim Reaper skeleton type character, and you've got a similar look to that Punch Comics 13, where the hand is dropping that woman into the grave. But yeah, no, that was a really strong sale for that book, 2160. Yeah, and I had that at 1500. The prior record was 1140. So yeah, that was a really big one. The next one is also a book that gets a lot of attention. Not this Red Seal Comics, but there's one called Scoop Comics. If you can see it on the bottom of the screen there. Let's see here. Sorry, I didn't answer this question up here. So is there any way to know how many PCH books were printed depending on the title? I know there are resources for Bronze and Silver Age. I don't know what type of resources are out there for Golden Age. I've never really looked. The print count doesn't really matter that much for Golden Age in reality, because I think like Action Comics 1 had a print count of over 1 million, but now today there's like 100-ish copies out there, and so it's just most of these books were either destroyed during paper drives or destroyed during some other, like when comics were being burned and, just people threw them out just through the passage of time. And so the print counts don't matter nearly as much as Silver and Bronze, where a lot of those books were kept. But this is a big sale too. I had this one at 2000 and it's at 2040 right now. So actually, so right on target for where I expected that one to go. So that was a strong sale for that one. I think this is a cool book too. I've always really liked this cover. This book has been getting really popular lately. It's a tough book. So you can see on here, it says a Gerber rating of 8, which is very rare for a book. It means a very limited number of copies available. I had estimated this one at 2,000 and it's already at 5. It went over $5,000. That was a big sale for that book. But the next one that there's some cool books coming up in a little bit. They're LB Cole covers, and one of them is called Shocking Mystery Cases number 51, which is like a amped up version of Suspense Comics 9. So you'll see it when it comes up in about 4. But let's see if there's any other questions here. Yeah, Punch 11 is kind of underrated. I agree. Punch 11, I think, is a really cool cover. I think Punch 13 is a really cool cover. So much attention gets taken by Punch Comics 12 that I think some of the other books in there tend to get overlooked, but they are getting more attention lately, but still nothing like Punch Comics 12. Punch Comics 12 is like top tier in terms of value books out there for the Golden Age, especially with a horror type title. But yeah, let's see here. Here we go. Here goes through. There's an odd census on them. I don't know how much here, but all of a sudden I need PCH book in my life. Yeah. So yeah. And like I was saying, with the census on the books, that's why if the book is relatively popular, where people will get it graded, there's demand for it, a really good way to identify approximately how available the book is the CGC census. And it's free. It's something you can just go to their site and you can access. If you have something like Go Collect, they have it linked through their site. But the CGC census gives you, it's not like every book is graded. So you don't know, it's not like everything is in there, but it gives you a good range for how rare a book is. Like a lot of Golden Age books will have 100 or less on the census. There are occasionally some that have more, like Crime Suspense Stories 22 has around 350 because it's an extremely in-demand book. It's from EC, which is one of the bigger publishers. All right, here's that book right now. So this is Shocking Mystery Cases 51. So you can see like this cover is crazy. It's this kind of this hypnotic type cover, but bloody heads on there and everything. What did I have this one for? I thought this one would go for 2,500, and it's just over 2,500 right now. The prior record was 1,800, but with Golden Age books, they don't sell all that often. So you have to try to estimate based on what books sold in other grades. And, that's one of those cases where I was just about right on. So went for 2,533. I had it at 2,500. So pretty, like an expected price on that one. We've got another really big Golden Age book coming up in about 3 issues. It's Silver Street Comics number 6, which is the first appearance of the Golden Age Daredevil. So that one, it's also got like this crazy villain cover, this character called the Claw. So I expect this one to go for a lot. I have it estimated at 6,000. I think it's already at 6,300. So it'll be interesting to see what that one ultimately sells for. Let's see here. Yeah, just watched all 3 of the pre-code horror videos with Swaggle and Como. Fun stuff. Yeah, so that's the other thing. If you haven't checked those out across my channel, Swaggle Haas and Como Comics, we all put out videos today where we kind of filmed them together and did 3 books on each channel, and then put them all out at the same time. So here's that cover right now. So it's at 6,300. Like I said, I had it at 6,000. So at least right now it's looking like it's sticking, but there's a couple more bids. And usually this is one of those interesting things that if you see here, this bid of 5,555 as an internet bid, what that generally means is when it has a weird number like that, that was a preset bid. And so if you're bidding against them and you see that number pop up, you can almost guarantee your next bid will take the book. And then it becomes between you and maybe somebody else in the room. But at least that's how you know you beat the live bid. But yeah, you kind of just look out for those weird numbers like that, because sometimes people will have like it's like a safety bid that will protect them if somebody outbids them. So little things like that. If you know to look for that, then it tells you when if you do one more bid, you'll at least be winning it for the time being. But then somebody might bid back against you in the live sale. There's another really cool book coming up. Spellbound 17 in one more right after this one. It's just one that I've seen a number of people use it as like a logo for either for their Instagram or for whatever it might be. And it's a cool one that it's like a skull hand or skeleton hand type cover. So it's one that I've always thought was pretty cool. Yeah, I'm a sucker for anything with a skull. Yeah, I mean that's really that's where, yeah, so here's that cover. So you can see you've got kind of these like skeleton ghoul type characters in the back, and then the woman with the skeleton hands. What did I have this one at? I estimated this one would go for 800. It's at 900 right now. So that's what, let's see if I think after this one, I'll get a little bit of a break in books that I was planning on really watching for this one. Man, 960 already. Yeah, this is a strong sale for this one. So that it's now at 1,030. We'll see if it gets any more bids. But so you can see they beat the live. So now they beat the internet bid, which are the preset bids. So it's only the people in the room that would be competing then. But let me make all right. So that was something I wanted to talk a little bit about, was because I had a question on my Instagram page about if this was a soft auction yesterday, how it did, all that kind of thing, because pre-code horror has been one of the strongest areas in the comic market. And while everything else has been, largely been going down, things like Golden Age and pre-code horror has continued to go up and, have really strong sales. And so like I do with the weekly heritage auction, I also did for this one, I picked out what I call the key issues, because this auction has a lot of filler books in it. So I picked out the key issues, which I mentioned earlier in the stream, which is around 172 or 173 books. And then I tracked the high, I record the high sale, so the prior high, as well as what I estimate the current value as. And when I look at these books, generally, if I see 50% or more of the books selling for what my estimate was, then I consider that a stable to strong sale. And so yesterday, for the first half of this auction, 56% of those books sold for my estimate or above. And so to me, that tells me this is on the stronger side of sales. And especially because this was one of these specialized auctions, these ones that aren't at the normal time. It's a ton of Golden Age books all at once. And I mean, even if I really like Golden Age, I really like the pre-code horror stuff, it's still a pretty select niche within the niche of comic collectors, already. And so it's asking a lot of the, buying or collecting community to put out a a sale with this many specific horror and crime covers. And so with that, like still beating my estimates on average at 56%, I would say that that was a pretty strong representation. Now, does that mean that every book did? Obviously, no. It means 44% didn't. And now some are real close to my estimate, just a little bit under. There are some that were really good discounts or deals. And so I highlighted some of the ones that went really big. And so I thought I can show a couple of those first. So one of the ones that went really, really high was this book called Dynamic Comics. And it's actually by the same, let's see, 83239. The cover is done by the same person who did Punch Comics 12, which is Gus Rica, and which I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. I don't know, but Gus Rica. And so you can see this cover is just nuts. I mean, because I believe this is also 1944. Yes, 1944. It's a Chesler, which is same as Punch Comics. And this is a pretty crazy, I would call violent or gruesome cover for 1944. And see this one, it went for $9,600, and it was a CBCS, which I was honestly, like, secretly, I was hoping this would be one of those books where, because I'm able to pick up those CBCS books for a pretty good discount. This one did not. This one, the last 3.0 sale in a CGC was, I think, 2018, and it was for $4,800. So this book doubled, and it was in a CBCS case, and it is a really nice looking copy, but it has a detached cover. It's detached to the staple, and at least with CGC, usually about the top grade you can get with that is a 3.0. So you might be able to get the 3.0 if you decided you wanted to put this into a CGC case, but I mean, with this type of book, it doesn't really matter. It's and that's the thing I like to say, like with Golden Age books, it's crazy that a lot of times you'll still see rare Golden Age books sell for a discount when they're in a CBCS case. And so, I mean, I love that. I will buy those all day long. I will happily pick up rare Golden Age books for a discount just because it's in a different plastic case. I'm not buying the plastic case. I'm buying the book that's on the inside. So, I mean, you can see this book with your own eyes. This is a really nice presenting copy. It just has a staple being that's popped there. So, but also the other thing here is it's slightly brittle pages. I always like to point that out, because you've got a lot of people that think like white pages is everything. White pages is the reason that books sell for a lot. It's like, no, especially when you're talking rare books. Who cares what the page quality is? You might see this book come up for sale once a year. You can't be picky and pass on it because it's got slightly brittle pages. So, but that was one of them. Let's see where we're at here. Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't want to miss this one. We've got one coming up in 3 that is, I expect, will probably be the second highest sale for this auction. So the highest was at Punch 12. Second highest was that Dynamic 8, which also tied the Mystery Comics, or which one was it? The Mysterious Adventures 13. But this one coming up is Startling Terror Tales number 11. I actually have a copy right back here. Now mine is a 1.8. So that's, if you're not familiar, that's this book right here. This crazy cover. This is an LB Cole cover with a spider that has a human skull head, and he's got people in his web and all that kind of thing. So mine is a 1.8. The one coming up is I think it's a 6.5. Yeah, it is a 6.5, and it is a stunning 6.5. This book looks amazing. It's got a little color loss up in the left corner, but it's going to be the next book that's coming up here. I think I have a copy of that Startling 10 actually for sale. I don't remember what grade mine is, but yeah, Startling 11. It's one of my books on my keeper list. It's one of my keeper books, which I've talked about before. Let's see what this one does. Oh my gosh, yeah. So it jumped up to 9,600 right away. So now this is the second book to break 10,000. So this is at 10,800 now. I mean, just like look at the colors on that one. The red is just amazing. We'll definitely take a close look at this one afterwards, because that's incredible. So it's 13,200 now. Man, yeah, this is going to be a big sale. This is a really big sale. I had estimated at 9,000 and it just crushed that sale because I mean it's an amazing copy. I mean, how many it says there are 15 higher on the census, but it's at 15,600. I'm curious if this one, I don't think it'll catch the Punch 12. I don't think this one will be the top book, but yeah, this is that's a really really strong sale. Yeah, so 15,600. I mean, that is an incredible book. That's really cool to see that one because man, yeah, that is an awesome book. Um, but let's see here. I'm gonna check the yeah. I thought it would be fun to do the live stream tonight just because it's Halloween weekend and they've got these all these horror comics and you don't get to see a lot of these types of books come up all that often, especially not all at once. You might get a few of these, like maybe 5 or 10 in any given weekly heritage auction, but to have hundreds of them, that is just, it's something else to be able to see it all at once. Okay. So what are people's thoughts on Swagglehawk's new goatee? So I said he's trying to be like me. He's growing he's got the facial hair, and then he's going after the pre-code horror comics. So, I think if I don't know if he does triathlon, I'll have to find out. See if see if he can. I think So if you do triathlon, then you maybe have completed the trifecta of my beard and pre-code horror and triathlon for basically my hobbies. Let's see here. We've got a see. What did I have this one at? I think I had that one is 500. Went for 720. There's a strong sale. Next one I had at 600, and it's already it's right around 700 now with that bid, a little under 700. So again, strong sale for this one. So yeah, there's some really cool books in this auction. That's one of the other fun things with this auction is that a lot of times with like the weekly auctions, I'm watching a lot of books, but there tends to be some big gaps between the books that I'm interested in. With this one, there's a high percentage of books that I'm interested in watching. So this one, I'm actually going to bid on that one. So I don't know if I'll get outbid or not, but we'll see. So I'm winning right now. I just thought that was a pretty cool cover. Yeah, I'll bid again. But yeah, I thought it was a cool cover. You've got the skull cover, and we'll see how I do. I'll do one more. But yeah, I mean, I thought. But yeah, so there's two types of bids you can do. There's like a full bid, and then there's a cut bid. And yeah, I'm gonna let this one go. There's a full bid and a cut bid, and and so with that, the cut bid you can only use once per item, and but yeah, so the full bid you can only do once per item, so you have to kind of strategically use it. You don't want to use it early. You want to wait to use it as late as possible. Now, I thought this was a really cool cover, but it had glue repair at the Staples. What other? Okay, so that was the restoration on it. There was glue on the cover. I didn't end up watching. I had to kind of pick and choose which books I watched just because it takes a long time to price all these books out. So I decided to, if it wasn't like a big key, I wasn't watching the ones that had restoration on it. So I didn't end up watching this one. But yeah, I'll get back to the chat, see if there's any other questions in here. Let's see. So hello from Copenhagen, Denmark. So I love seeing the international messages and stuff, like seeing that people are watching from like Australia and Europe and all of that. I think that's, I don't know, it's so cool, like being able to connect to everybody through YouTube like that. All right. Let's see here. So sorry, I'm just trying to read through the chat real quick. So here, this one. I'm glad you mentioned Shadow Comics. Those have some great, very early PCH type covers. Maybe it gets overshadowed by the pulp mags of the Shadow. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what it is. I have noticed that it seems like a lot of times books that get overlooked are the ones that have the number and volume numbering, because Shadow Comics and I'm Super Mystery Comics. Those ones are examples of ones that use this volume numbering, and I feel like it almost just causes problems with people. It's like you don't just have something simple. You're like, oh, this is issue 6 or this is issue 10. This is issue 3, volume 3, issue 3, or volume 5, issue 2, or things like that. And it almost seems like that almost hurts the books. It's really strange, but yeah, I don't know why Shadow gets overlooked. It's possible that it will gain more popularity in the future, but I've talked about this with a few other people. I think the books that are most undervalued personally that I think right now, and I'm not just saying that because it's always tough with this. I I want to talk about this stuff, but I also don't want it to seem like maybe I'm pushing books that I have, or that they're books that I want, and then it makes it hard for me to end up getting those books. But the Atlas Pre-Code Horror books, I mean, Atlas Pre-Code Horror there are some awesome books in there, and a lot of them have not gotten much attention. And Atlas is the precursor to Marvel. You had Timely, then it was Atlas, and then it was Marvel. And so you'd think that the Atlas ones would get a lot of attention because of all the demand for Marvel, all the attention that Marvel gets. But for whatever reason, on average, they haven't. Now, that doesn't mean all of them haven't, because there are definitely some very expensive Atlas Pre-Code Horror books. One that sold last night was a let's see, it was 83339. It's Journey into Mystery number 6. Now, most people are aware of Journey into Mystery 83, which is first appearance of Thor, but prior to that, it was monsters, and prior to that, it was horror covers. And so this is issue 6, and this is a 5.0 that sold for $6,900. It's one of these black background covers, and that really seems to be something that is a very common trend with these books, is that black backgrounds very often will sell for more than other books around it that don't have that feature. I think it just makes things pop, especially with like skull covers and all of that. But yeah, this was one of the biggest surprising sales to me. I had estimated this book at $2,500. I mean, it went for almost 3 times what I thought it would. So this was just a monster sale for that book. No pun intended. But there's a few more coming up that I'm watching as well. Just some cool skull type covers. One of them is actually a pretty big, what I would call pre-code horror key, and that's from the Strange Mysteries run. And so there's a few books I'm watching in here. One is number 57. So you can see we're already at Strange Mysteries. I don't think I was watching this one. Maybe I was. No, I wasn't watching this one, but that's a pretty strong sale. I mean, 6.5, and Pre-Code Horror comic is referenced in Seduction of the Innocent. So it's one of the Seduction of the Innocent books, and it's kind of like a cool skull cover. But yeah, already over $500. But I don't really know I don't have the price looked at for that one, but let's see, was I watching this one? No, the next one I'm watching is 57. So we've got one more for that. So we'll jump back over here to the chat. I can't believe I'm up at 2 a.m. watching this. Much love from South Africa. Yeah, I'm very similar. I have I'm a late night person, so I've been up late watching some people's live streams before. It's always fun. All right. And yeah, just thanks everybody for joining tonight. We've got 47 people in the chat right now. I appreciate all the comments, and like I've said prior, if you've got any questions, anything like that you want me to address, if I can, feel free to put them in the chat. Now, always happy to try to answer questions that I can. So then this question here: CBCS or CGC? I mean, so for me, obviously, if you watch my or if you follow me on Instagram or on this channel, I generally do CGC unboxings. I mean, I send almost all my books to CGC, and there's a couple reasons for that, but the biggest one is the value of the books. I mean, on average, I mean that one Dynamic Comics 8 was definitely an exception. That was a really strong sale as a CBCS book. You can have good sales for CBCS books, but on average, they tend to sell for less. And since I'm someone that also buys and sells comics, I consider myself a dealer. Then for me, I'm sending them to the place that I think they're one, the easiest to sell because there's more demand for CGC books. And the other side of it is that they tend to sell for more. So let's see this one. I thought this was a really cool cover. Oh, yeah, I had it estimated at 400. It's right around 330 right now. 360, but it's this guy, he's up from the grave and he's calling his wife, and then it's her screaming on the other side of the phone. I mean, I don't know how he got access to a phone in the graveyard. I mean, they don't have cell phones yet. That's back in the 50s. Now this is a big book. This is actually a pretty popular cover. I would call it a key cover. I had estimated this one at 1800, and it's sitting at 1800 right now. But it's basically a bunch of skulls coming out of another skull, or a bunch of skeletons coming out of another skull. But yeah, there are some cool skull covers that are in this Strange Mysteries run. A couple more after this on item 560 is actually a book I have. Mine's really low grade. Mine's like a 1.5. I think it's a completely split spine, but it's a cool black cover, and it's got skull on it, some skeleton hands, and a woman in the red dress on there. So, which are always things that can be big draws or item or things that people really look for in these pre-code horror books. I can't believe this one's still going. This is a really, really strong sale. What did I say? I had this one estimated at 1800. Wow. That went for 2,880. That was a really big sale for that book. That was a strong sale for that one for sure. Wow. Yep. So that was a big sale. Let's see what the next one goes. So the next one, I had estimated this one pretty high as well. So we'll see what it ends up going. Oh, it jumped up a lot. So I didn't have a chance to update my numbers on it, and so I thought that this one was pretty low right now, but it's actually already up at 1,320. The next book that's coming up. So I had estimated 1,800. We'll see if it gets the type of bids that the last one did. So that last one is definitely the bigger issue of the two, but this one's a pretty awesome cover too. So it should be coming up next. So yeah, so you've got this black background, you've got the giant skull, the skeleton hands, the woman on the cover in the red dress. Just a lot of those elements that people are looking for in those pre-code horror books. And we're already at 1,920. So this one beat my estimate as well. So that is a strong sale for that book. So yeah, didn't get the number of the of issue 12, but still really strong sale for that book. But let's see, go back to the chat. But yeah, jumping back to CGC or CBCS. I mean, I want the competition. I want CBCS to do well. Now, last year when CGC was having a lot of issues and a lot of people switched over to CBCS, I think it caused its own problem because now CGC is like firing on all cylinders. If you watch my Instagram, I made a post today about a number of, I had like 63 books that I sent into, and if you can hear my dog barking in the background, I sent 63 books into CGC across, I think it's 6 different submissions. So it was a walkthrough, a magazine walkthrough, an express, a standard, and 2 fast track economies. And they got the standard got back to me in just over a week. The walkthrough, or no, not the walkthrough, the express and the 2 fast track economies have shipped out. But the funny thing was they all got there at the same time, but the walkthrough and the magazine walkthrough still aren't graded. They still hadn't been graded. They were the slowest ones of all of them. It made no sense. On CGC, on their page where they say like what their turnaround times are, walkthrough I think is 3 days, magazine walkthrough is 2 days or something like that, and it's been like a week and a half. And so I was just kind of joking. I felt like CGC was trolling me that they were just finishing the other ones first, but the other ones got done so quick I can't complain. I feel like it's nothing you can really complain about because this is a really cool cover too. This Another World, or stories, strange stories from another world. I had this one I estimated this one at 1,200. It's a little under that right now, 1,030. We'll see if it gets any other bids, but I just think it's such a cool like zombie type cover. But yeah, no, I feel like whoever picked that one up got that one for a pretty good deal, because that's not an easy book in that type of grade. 6.5 is a really presentable grade for that book. So I think somebody got a good price on that one. Then the next one, there's a Strange Tales 18, another Atlas book. Let's see see what the price this one's at. It's already up a little bit. We'll see. We've got to get through this one book first. See if anybody throws any other bids in. Nope. So this is, everybody I think is wow, that that skyrocketed. I had this one at $800. So that's where you can see here. This is where this is what the price was before the live bid started. It was at $440. It finished at $1,300. That was a really strong sale for that book. So like I said, the prior record was $430. I don't have right now when that happened. That could have been 5 or 6 years ago, but the estimated value based on other sales I had was $1,800, and that was a big sale for that one. But that's one of those ones where everybody knows about Strange Tales 110, first Doctor Strange, but I think a lot of people don't necessarily ever think about those books that are way earlier, that are back in the golden age, and that's where a lot of these started with horror comics, and then they eventually transitioned as the Comics Code Authority came out, and they couldn't make those anymore. So then they went to things that were, like the monster type books and that kind of thing, where it's not as scary, monsters. And then ultimately they went to superheroes. This is a cool book too. This one, so I had a copy of this that I sold this year that I had picked up on Instagram a couple years ago. I can't remember what mine came back as, like a 3.0 or a 2.5, something like that. Mine was also Brittle Pages. This one's Brittle Pages here. But this is, I've called this one like the first prototype Magneto. It's this first appearance of this guy, Magno, the Magnetic Man. And so I kind of think it looks like the first prototype Magneto, but this is early. This is 1940 from Ace Publications, which that is a rare publisher to come across. Books from Ace do often there's like a collector base around them, and there's definitely people that search those out. But yeah, they have that one as a pour or a 0.5. So now here's actually some of those books that I was talking about. So these are, there isn't one that I'm actually watching until for about 10 more books. But these are these super mystery comics. And this is where you've got the volume and then the issue number. And so I'm guessing because this one just has 2, this is probably Super Mystery Comics Volume 1, Issue 2. But it goes up, I think, to like Volume 8 or something like that. And so it's just one of those types of books that it's a lot harder for somebody to, I think, really talk about the book when you're talking about numbers and issue numbers and all that. And I think that's just one of the things that ends up hurting the value on those books. But holy cow, I wasn't even watching this one. That is a huge sale for $5,000. I'm gonna have to go back and check that book. I don't know what that. And that's the thing. Like these books, some of these are so rare, you just don't ever see them. What is this book? So you've got kind of like the Good Girl art type cover where Hero's saving her from whatever that like claw digging machine. But first appearance of the Black Spider, only the second copy we've ever encountered. But yeah, wow, $5,760. That is a really, really big sale. And what did they have it? They had it as a VG or a 3.0. Yeah, I mean, it's got a big spine roll, which could probably be fixed. I'm curious. They didn't say what the page quality is like. It doesn't look like a Brittle Page book. And I'm guessing maybe someone also thinks that they might be able to get it better than a 3.0. But it's got a little piece out here, a little tear here. But I would definitely expect someone to try to have that spine roll fixed. But yeah, wow, that's a huge sale. I was not expecting that one. Because one of the things I often do to try to make sure I don't miss books like that, like big key books, is that before when I'm picking out books for the auction to watch, one of the things I'll do at the end before I start pricing is I'll look at every book in the auction and I'll just order it by highest price to lowest price. Then I'll just scan through to make sure I've selected all of them and that are on the high end. And I did that with this. And so that one must have been bid really low for a while. And maybe some bids got added in later. And because, wow, yeah, I definitely was not watching that one. But let's see here. Yeah, Shadow started as a pulp, long run before any comic. Yeah, the pulps are something that I don't know if those are going to catch on or not. It'll be interesting to see. CGC is supposed to start grading them pretty soon. I had somebody said that they had started grading them, but I don't think they have. I haven't seen any. I figure if they had started grading them, I would have started to see graded pulps pop up on Instagram or that kind of thing. And I haven't seen anything like that, so I don't think they're actually grading them yet. But I've been seeing a lot of people selling them on Instagram, and I know that there has been a collector community around pulps. There are some amazing covers on them. If you're not familiar with a pulp, basically a pulp is like a really, really cheap book. It's like a thicker, it's like a bound book. It's, often about like this thick. And they're made very, very cheaply. And I've had a couple over the last couple of years that I've picked up, but yeah, it's just really, really fragile paper, much more so than comics. Comics are sturdy compared to pulps. Usually like the bindings are all missing pieces and everything like that, but they have some incredible cover art. And so that's really the things that tend to sell pulps is part of its cover art, but not really. The cover art can trick you in pulps. Rarity is one of the things that really sells pulps. The ones that go for a lot of money, it's rarity slightly combined with cover content. Because I've seen pulps that I wouldn't say the covers are all that great, and they are worth a ton, and it's because of that rarity. And so you can definitely get tricked with pulps where someone might be like, oh, it's a skull cover and this kind of stuff, but it's not the same as with comics. With comics, it's a little easier to predict which ones are going to be worth a lot more and sell for more. With pulps, it is not. And there's not really a simple, there are price guides you can buy for them, but I don't believe there's anything like GPA or Go Collect, like a pricing service that's out there to really tell you, to help you along in understanding that. So I would say if you're looking at getting into pulps or getting into that area, just tread carefully because it's not an area that I have much experience with, and just from what I've seen, there are things that you think would be worth a lot and they aren't, and so you just got to be cautious with it. But this is one of the books I was watching. I think this is such a cool cover. It's like this early robot cover in 1943. I had estimated this one at $300, went for like $450, so strong sale for that one. But let's see. yeah. This is how I can tell how far behind I am in the chat. That was a comment I made about Swaglehaus's goatee and trying to, he wanted to be like my beard. But yeah, transformation is almost complete. so yeah. Have I ever come across a Tormented #1? There is actually one up tonight. I'm almost certain there is. Yeah, there is. It is 83666. So 83. Yep. So this is Tormented #1. Sorry if Ghost Riders, if you're not still in the chat. I don't know if you're still in the chat or not. When I got to your question, but yes, this is Tormented #1. I think this is one of those that you would think this book would sell for a lot more than it does. Like this one in a 2.0, I have it priced at $450. This is an awesome cover. I mean, you've got the woman in the red dress, which is that normal Golden Age trope that usually is like something that really adds to the value of the book. You've got the skeletons, the skulls. This is an awesome cover. I mean, it's personally, like, I think it's surprising that this one doesn't go for a little more. But yes, so yes, I have seen a Tormented #1 because I saw this one. I've seen one come up at another time as well, but I knew I had remembered seeing this book earlier when I was pricing these out a few days ago. But yeah. Let's see. Hi, Automatic. So I got some news about one of my pre-code books. How can I share them with you? I'm excited. So the easiest way, if you want to, reach out to me is Instagram. I'm on Instagram under the same name, under Automatic Comics. And if you have if you post the pictures, you can tag people in them, that kind of thing, and that lets me see the post, and then I can go and see those. That's one of the easiest ways to do it if you want to reach out, and if you've got some cool stuff that you want to share. That's one of the things that I'm really glad I ended up getting on Instagram. One, I've met a lot of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and made, some great friends through Instagram in the comic community, all that kind of stuff. And there are, I don't know. I always thought of Instagram as like something where people were just like posting pictures of their food and that kind of thing. But I mean, the comic community is big on Instagram. There is there are a lot of like really big collectors with amazing collections. There's a lot of Instagram sales, live sales. Elite Comics 11 is a big one. Grails Comics is a big one. Where they host these live sales for other people on Instagram, and I've picked up a lot of books through those. I mean, I bought my Startling Terror Tales 11 on Instagram. I bought my Underworld Crime 7 on Instagram. I bought my Suspense Comics 8 on Instagram, and I bought my Beyond 27 on Instagram. I mean, 4 of the 6 books up there I bought on Instagram. I mean, it is not just like moderns or anything like that. I mean, those are all big pre-code horror books, and I bought them all on Instagram. So that is definitely a place that if you're looking for another place to potentially pick up books, or just meet people. And this is how I learned about a lot of these in the first place, was starting to see people post pictures there. And Instagram's a really, really good place for comics. Yeah, Atlas Horror is underrated. Some of the Marvel Tales PCH covers are as good as EC. Astonishing PCH too. Yeah. Astonishing has some awesome covers. Menace has some awesome covers. Marvel Tales. I picked up a Marvel Tales 121 yesterday, which let's see. I thought it was just such a cool cover. So yeah, this is Marvel Tales 121. I mean, look at that cover. That's awesome. Like, you've got this zombie or whatever pulling a guy in under. They're at a graveyard and pulling this guy in. I mean, that is an amazing cover. And yeah, that's an Atlas pre-code horror book. So yeah, I think Atlas has some awesome stuff. I was watching the next book. Let's see how that one's doing. So this next one it's one of these super mysteries again. So this is volume 5, number 2. That's coming up next, which I just thought was, I mean, I've seen this one come up for sale before. It's got all these skulls. You got this person that's going to get thrown in there. I like that. With that one, I put in my cut bid and I got outbid. So I'm done now. That's what I was going to bid up to. Yeah, these super mystery books, they have some really great covers, some awesome covers, and they just, I feel like they do not get the attention that they deserve. There's one more really cool one coming up. I wouldn't be surprised if this next one hits some pretty big numbers though. But this one's really getting run up. I wonder what this one will end at, because it's one of the things. I mean, that's the thing with Golden Age books. I like to refer to it as like, and you have this with any type of key, but a lot of times you'll have these pretty high base values, where that one was like a pour, and it doesn't even really matter. Do I want a bit? No, I don't want to bid anymore. But yeah, this is a really cool cover too. I had this one estimated at $12.50. It's at $13. Oh man, there's a big internet bid in there. So you can tell, like, when it pops right back real quick, that means that the internet bid it just automatically outbids you. And so, but now it's at 1680. Wow, that's a big sale. The prior high in this grade was 725. I had, like I said, I had it at 1250 and went for 1680. So that was a big sale for that one. But yeah, back to the Atlas comment. There's some great covers. Like one of the, I think, there was an astonishing 8 that sold yesterday, and it was really low grade, but it had a very strong sale for the grade. So it was 83037. Let's see here. 83037. So if you haven't seen Astonishing 8 before, that's what this one is. And you've got this like claw hand that's pushing this guy underwater. You've got these little skeleton guys in the back. I mean, this is a 1.5. Went for $456. I mean, this again, it's another one of these black background covers. This is one of the, I would say, more in demand key type books from this run. Astonishing 30 is a really big book. That's one that I recently got back in a CGC unboxing as well. It's where you've got these eyes that are melting this guy on the cover. It's just a crazy cover. But yeah, Astonishing has some pretty great books in that run. Going to Baltimore Comic-Con tomorrow. Have any recommendations for entry-level Golden Age, Headlights, and Bondage preferred? So I would say for entry level, for that type of content, I would be looking at things like Rangers comics in later issues in the run. Rangers comics, Fight comics, Jungle comics, Jumbo comics. I can't think of it. There's another one that's not coming to my mind right now. But those ones are really good options, especially when you're talking about the later issues in the run. When you have the early issues, the ones that when you're getting into the early 40s, that kind of thing, early to mid 40s, World War II era issues, they can be pretty expensive. But when you start getting into the later issues, into the late 40s, you can find some really nice high grade copies that don't cost all that much. And they will generally have that type of cover content. So that's what I would be looking for. Like I said, Rangers comics, Fight comics, Jungle comics, Jumbo comics, and I'm sure there are some others as well, but those are a good place to start. Let's see. I don't know if that person got banned or not, but we'll see. Oh, yeah. Swaggle Comics slacking with the wrench. Yeah, I gave him the wrench before this one because I had somebody come into my last live stream that was writing a bunch of unpleasant things. Oh yeah, found my IG. Yep. Yeah, so I'll obviously I can't take a look right now, but I'll check out my IG after the live stream. Yeah, calling him out. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll down to see. Yeah, my CBCS have taken forever, around 1 year. Yeah, that's this is another book that I was probably watching this one, so I can go down and check out real quick. Yes. Wow. Yeah, this is a strong sale for this book. I had estimated this one at 400 because again, you got to remember it's raw too. So this one went for around 550. So pretty strong sale for that book. But yeah, I've heard that from a few people. I'm guessing it's tier dependent because that's the same thing with CGC. If you sent into CGC economy, non-fast track, your books will probably be there for around a year. It's the one tier that is still incredibly slow. Every other tier, you're getting back in a month at worst, maybe a month and a half. But economy non-fast track is like 220 business days. I mean, that's around a year. But if you pay for fast track, it's 20 days. And my fast tracks, I just got back in like 9, something like that. In business days, probably like 7 business days. So I was saying this, I think, in my last live stream, that I think economy fast track is the best deal in CGC grading right now. The modern fast track, it's like 20 days versus 10 days. It's not that big of a deal. But economy fast track, I mean, 220 or whatever days versus 20, and it's just $15. I would pay that all day. The book I'm sending you CGC is Vault of Horror 24. I don't know offhand which book that is. So it's because Vault of Horror has some great issues. 35 is one of my favorite pre-code horror books, which is why that's the one that pops up right away in my. So let's look at 24. So here's Vault of Horror 24. Yeah, no, that's a cool cover. Let's see what. Yeah, so it looks like I don't know if this guy is like a vampire in the back. Did something with that guy's blood, but yeah, you can't really go wrong with many of the EC titles. They're generally all pretty great. But like I was mentioning, Vault of Horror 35. I picked up I have a copy at CGC right now. It's a low grade copy. I think I have it like a 2 or a 2.5 or something. But I picked up one last night that's a little bit nicer. But this is one of my favorite, like I said, pre-code horror covers. So this is a Johnny Craig cover. And if you you can't read this tag, it says "Merry Christmas to my wife," and it's a coffin that he's put under the tree. I mean, it's such an over the top, like it's got that sense of humor to it and everything. I don't know. I love that cover. I think it's so funny. But let's see here. See, I have a couple books at CBCS. They did take some time coming back, but I do like the casing a little better than CGC, but CGC is just so much quicker and more valuable. Yeah. I like the CBCS, the new CBCS cases. I do like those. They feel very sturdy. They're very clear. You never really see the what are they called? Those rings on the case like you get with CGC cases, but that stuff doesn't really bother me that much. I know the Newton rings. I know Newton rings bother some people a lot. It doesn't bother me at all. So I don't really care about that much. But you'd think if CBCS can do that and not have those types of issues, that CGC should be able to pull that off. So it'd be nice if they made some type of update that would take care of that. Amazon should grade with Amazon Prime and get it back in 2 hours with free shipping. Yeah, that'd be nice. But yes, so Friday night auction, is it a special one? Yes. So this was, they do these every once in a while. They're usually good to keep an eye out for because sometimes you get some that slip through the cracks. Sometimes it'll be an auction that isn't even like a comic auction, but it happens to have comic books in it. I picked up, there was like a movie auction, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, where I picked up a bunch of these really nice early Famous Monsters of Filmland books. And, they went for incredibly cheap because it's just one of those auctions where nobody was really watching, or the people that were watching weren't there for comics. And so it's definitely worthwhile to keep an eye out for these kinds of things. And this is one of those. This is a specialized auction specifically for pre-code crime and horror books. It's like over 800. And a lot of them, like you see, like I'm not necessarily paying attention to all these that are coming up. There's a lot of what I'd call filler golden age books. But then they also have a lot of keys. I'm watching around 170 books for this auction, and I would consider all of those a key. And the golden age keys are a little different than what you have with the other ages. It's a lot of it is just based on the cover. But because first appearances, second appearances, that kind of thing are few and far between, especially with characters that still are in use today. And then if they're still in use today, it's extremely expensive. So yeah, a lot of it is in the golden age is based on cover content. So CGC said 1 hour 23 for pulps. I'm not sure what that means. 1H23 for pulps. So if you're still in the chat, I don't know if that's if that's maybe January 23rd or something like that, but I don't know. Sorry. Automatic Comics, do you only buy Golden Age books and pre-code horror comic books, or do you also buy Marvel and DC blue chip keys? I buy everything. I'm not really a because from my perspective, I'm looking at I have books that I buy that are what I call my keeper books, like the ones that are all back on the shelf here. And then I have also books that I'm buying that I buy to sell. I also, like I mentioned earlier in the chat, I also consider myself a dealer. I sell a fair amount. And so I'm also buying books to sell. Now, my keeper list, it used to be, it was never all silver and bronze, but it used to be mostly silver and bronze age books. I think I even had a couple moderns on there. Like I had NYX3 was one of my keeper books for a while. But then as I got introduced into Golden Age, they started replacing my keeper books, because the way that I do my keeper list is I have it set at a specific number. And for a long time, it had been 50 books. And so the reason for that for me is just it keeps what I'm keeping in check. And then it ensures that I keep selling other books and I don't let it kind of take over, in terms of everything and like what I'm keeping. I also try to think of it as like when I'm replacing a book on there, I'm kind of like upgrading it. So I'm kind of not necessarily upgrading that book, but I'm upgrading the keeper collection. I'm upgrading that keeper list to either whether it's through value or rarity or whatever it might be. And the thing was that as I started getting these Golden Age books, I really started to realize how hard it is to come across them, to get those books. And so I had a much easier time letting go of silver and bronze age books because I knew I could get them back if I really wanted to. But the Golden Age books, when you sell them, you might not even see a copy that you can afford come up for sale again for years. And so, yeah, you might have one or two or whatever that pop up, but there may be a high grade copy that's just like, I'm not going to spend $15,000 or $20,000 on that book. I need to wait for the one that's a 1.0 or a 1.8. I mean, you can see a lot of my my keeper books tend to be lower grades. There's a 1.8, there's a 3.0, there's a 1.8. That one's a 5.0, that one's a 3.5 and a 5.5. But I have a lot of like 1.8 to 2.5 type books that are keeper books, and it's just because that's all I can afford in the Golden Age. It's just the books get too expensive. But you have to. But then there's a lot of competition down there for those. Did I miss the? Okay, there's a couple pretty cool books coming up. I want to watch those. But there's a lot of competition down in those grades because people like me, it's like I don't have that kind of money I don't have endless money to buy some of those really expensive books, and so I have to. I'm competing with all the other people that want that 1.8 or that 2.0 so that they can get that affordable, hopefully nice presenting copy of that book in the lower grades. So so ultimately what it's done is those, because I'm like, I don't want to sell that one because it's so hard to replace. They've kind of replaced all my bronze and silver ones, but no, I do still buy bronze and silver and modern books. If you watch my unboxings, I have a variety of ages of books that I show, but let's see. It's this one. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that one's going too cheap, so I'm going to bid on it. But this is the Suspense Comics run, if you're not familiar with this one. But there are some. Hey, I won it. 432. Wow. That seems like that went way too cheap. I had that book estimated at 1,400. So that'll be interesting. I'm going to have to check that one after. This is a tough book. This is one of L.B. Cole's first books, first covers. He did like 2 or 3 other covers before this one. But I have a low grade copy that has a completely split spine, but it's complete. And let's see. I had estimated this one at 1,000, and it's already up around 1,200. Because this one, what's the issue? It's just tear seals. It's a C1 tear seal, so I wouldn't be surprised if whoever buys this has those tear seals removed. I feel like I should have valued this one a little higher. It's a nice copy. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That still feels cheap to me. because I think it all depends how big the tear seals are. Because I mean, you could get back to you could probably keep a 1/8. I think that's like a $2,000 or $3,000 book. I feel like I undervalued that one. Yeah, I mean, I think that was probably even though I only estimated at 1,000. I don't know. I think I undervalued that one. I think that was just because if it was just tear seals, let's take a look. Make sure. Tear seal to cover. It's a C1. Oh, now I remember why. Okay, so I assumed. Well, so you can see the spine is really rough. So you don't know where the tear seals are for sure. Let's see if there's grader's notes. Tape interior cover, tape spine, tear seals, top left front cover, tears to cover. So I was wondering if this was all a big tear seal, and if you had them removed, you would end up with like a 4 or 5 inch tear on the cover. But even so, I mean, it could be here. I don't know. I think whoever got this, I think I underpriced that one. I think whoever got this got a good deal on that book, because like my raw unrestored, that's like a 1.5. I paid like 2,300, I think, for it for raw. So because you never see this book come up for sale, and especially not presentable copies. And this is a very presentable copy. I feel like I should have bid on this book. I'm a little annoyed with myself right now. I should have bid on this book. Oh well, what you gonna do? But yeah, so if you're not familiar with the Suspense Comics run, it actually, the issue right before this one has one of the most in-demand covers of the entire Golden Age. I will show you what that is. It is a Alex Schomburg cover. This is 3. This one. So this is Suspense Comics number 3. This cover is insane. You've got the Nazi hooded villains, the woman that's going to be sacrificed here, this guy, and then you've got the hero that's going to save her, but he's fighting against guys with guns when he has a spear, so he's probably in trouble. But so the funny thing with this run is that issue 1, issue 3, and issue 4 all have the same theme. Like, this is a very similar theme to issue 4, the one that I was showing before. Then issue 1, I actually picked up a copy of this one recently. This issue 1, again, see, very similar theme, but you can tell with how much better this issue looks. That's how you can tell Alex Schomburg was a far superior artist. I mean, it's just, you can just see it. I mean, this cover is so much. I mean, Suspense Comics 1 and 4 are still great books, but this one is another level, and that's why I'll show you how much that book costs. Suspense number 3. Let's see here. It is a very expensive book. So yeah, so a 5.0, and it doesn't ever come up for sale. Part of it is because it's rare. There's not a lot of them, but I would say it's more because nobody wants to sell it. Because it's 23 copies, which is rare. That is a very low census count, but there are plenty of other books with census counts like that you might see a copy come up once a year. This, I mean, we haven't even had a copy sell for 2 years. There was no copy that came up during, I think there was one on Comic Link, but GPA doesn't pull in Comic Link. If I remember, there was one on Comic Link maybe last year, but I don't know what it sold for because Comic Link, for whatever reason, doesn't like to give their data out to people. So it's always a pain. We'll see if maybe Go Collect pulled it in. Here's one. Oh, why didn't GPA pull this one in? Sold the 13th. Why didn't I know about this book? When did this sell? It sold October 13th on Heritage. I watch every Heritage auction. I didn't know this book sold. I have no idea. Yeah, that's crazy to me. I don't know where this is from. I don't know which auction this was in. It couldn't have been a weekly. I never would have missed this book. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. That's really weird. Oh, I wonder if what happened. Um, I wonder if it was sold through Heritage's site. Heritage has the ability to sell because, like you see, when you click on it, it takes you to the sale. It's got a $20,000 sale from October 13th. It takes you to a sale. That's really weird. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, that is Suspense Comics number 3. And for 1.5, $20,000. I mean, that's honestly, that's not bad. That feels almost like a deal. I think if that would have gone to auction, I think that would have sold for a lot more than $20,000. So yeah, we just missed. That was a really cool one too. This is another big book. 1560. Shoot, I would have bid on that. That's a good deal. Someone picked it up for a good price. This is a classic cover. Just amazing colors on this one. The snake, going around the tower. But this one is extremely hard to get in high grade. I think the highest grade is like a 5.5. There's a 7.0 restored, but I think the highest universal is a 5.5. But yeah, that's not a bad price for whoever picked that one up. $1,500 because I think the high is, high was 3,120. Yeah, sorry, I'll get back to the chat. See if I can try to catch up on some of these comments. I don't know much about Nick. So Nick Cage had a big Golden Age collection. I've been told a lot of his books were restored. I've heard that too. I don't know if that's if that's true or not. But you do see Nicolas Cage books come up for sale every once in a while. They are often like in the right here up in the right here it'll say from the Nicolas Cage collection, and they usually sell for a premium. I mean, I think it'd be cool to have a book that Nicolas Cage owned, so I understand that. Yeah, apparently people in the 50s hung out at graveyards a lot. I know, like I still like hold my breath when I drive past graveyards. The stuff you learn as a kid. So I don't know. I don't want to go to the graveyard, but yeah, they do seem to hang out there a lot. But we were talking about that in one of our, I don't remember I don't think it was my video. It was either on Swaggle or Como Comics, how on the covers of a number of these pre-code horror books, you have, just like I showed with that Marvel Tales 121, you have people getting pulled into graves. It seemed like this is a serious problem that was going on then. And yeah, and that gets in your head, feel like you don't want that to happen to you. So I believe he had one of the highest known condition issues of Punch 12. I think it was a 5.0, and the highest one is an 8.0. Yeah, 8.0 sounds about right. I don't know offhand though. I can take a look though. Let's see. Yes, there's an 8.5 restored, but the highest universal is an 8.0. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those books that it's extremely expensive in any grade, but it will accelerate as you get up, higher and higher, because you just have so few copies that are available. I mean, only 31 copies that are universal that are graded alone, and then highest is an 8.0. Now, it is always risky if you're like going after that single highest graded copy, because that often requires you pay a big premium. But there are still books out there that aren't graded. Like the Promise collection took the single highest position for, it was a huge percentage of their books. It was, I don't remember what they said, if it was like 23% or 50%, or it was something like that, where it took the single highest grade. And that was a collection that was not known really before then. And so you could have another Promise collection come up that knocks that one out, and then all of a sudden it's probably uncommon, but you could have something like that happen, and then there's all of a sudden there's a 9.6, and then that huge premium you paid for the 8.0. There's a big loss that you will often take there. Right. So what are your thoughts on the war genre? That feels like one where interest will age out over time. Yeah, and I would say it already has largely aged out. Outside of World War II, World War II books, those are in a league of their own, kind of, and so they tend to, uh, they seem to really retain their value. But when you get outside of World War II, when you get to, there's like Korean War ones when you're in the kind of like the 50s, the early 50s, outside of just a few key covers where you have something that's really gruesome, whether it's a flamethrower cover or something like that, they're just, the demand is not there for the war covers. I Yeah, that's why it's generally something I largely steer clear of, other than if you're talking about the World War II era stuff, whether it's in those like Rangers comics and fight comics, but also things like Marvel Mystery Comics, Captain America, Batman, Superman, all those, all of those have issues where they're in some way tied to World War II, whether it's for selling bonds, advertising bonds for the US government, or they're actually fighting Nazis or whatever it might be. Let's see. Yeah, so hey Swag, thanks for the NFT video the other day. I was one of the lucky ones that nabbed a Superman 1 in a 9.0. Yeah, I've talked about it with Nikki a few times. I mean, NFTs, they're not for me, but I'm open to letting people collect whatever they want to collect. So I bought Shock Suspense Stories for 280 and a 2.5. Thought it was a once in a lifetime chance to make a wise choice. You think? I guess I don't know which one. So I don't know which issue. So if you've got the specific issue, I can let you know. But that's one of the things I've talked about this a number of times when I'm talking about tips for buying and selling comics, that kind of stuff. If you are buying a comic book that is buying or selling comic book that is $100 or more once a month, or $1,000 or more once a year, you should be paying for one of the pricing services, whether it's GPA, Go Collect, or Cover Price. They just having those can protect you from making some very expensive decisions, incorrect decisions, and you can pay whatever you want for something. It's not wrong to set a record price or anything like that. I mean, that's not the issue. It's just that if something is more readily available, especially when you're talking about like silver and bronze age books, that kind of thing, like having those types of pricing services can save you. I mean, like for example, when I bought a couple of years ago, I bought my New Mutants 98 newsstand in a 9.8. So first Deadpool in 9.8 with the newsstand. I bought it on a claim sale, and I can almost guarantee you the person priced it off of like probably eBay sold listings, and they just looked at directs. And so they sold it for like half of what that book was probably worth. And so that's the kind of stuff where, you want to have that knowledge. And so say that book was worth 2,800 at the time and I paid like 1,800 or something. That's $1,000 mistake. And GPA costs like $14 a month. Go Collect, I think, is $6. Cover Price, I think, is around $5 or $6. You could pay for almost a lifetime of subscription fees, on Cover Price and Go Collect, in like 10 or 12 years of subscription fees on GPA. And so that's just one mistake, so that's why I tell people, like, don't go cheap on the wrong things. It's fine to try to save money and that kind of thing on certain things, but that's one of those examples where I highly recommend, if you are spending that level of money or selling books at that level, get one of those pricing services. I cannot recommend it enough. I have them all. You've seen me use GPA and Go Collect on here. I also have Cover Price. Now, Sergeant Fury is a little different, but that is also part of why that run isn't as popular as the other runs, at least my opinion. There are keys within the Sergeant Fury run, like issue 1 and issue 13. But on average, I think that's probably why that run is less expensive than equivalent Silver Age runs, then that's that's just my take on it. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I recently bought a few early issues of Forbidden Worlds. Would they be considered pre-code horror? I think the early Forbidden Worlds, I would kind of call them like a sci-fi. I think those are mostly, they're almost a mix. Let's just look at some of the early issues. So yeah, you could almost call them a mix. Like you've got like, this is like a werewolf cover. I mean, that's definitely, I mean, it's a mummy. I would definitely call that horror. This is like a skull cover. I would call that horror. So yeah, I would definitely say it's on more on the horror side for a while. And then you can see it starts to transition more into kind of like sci-fi type stuff. I would say it looks like it's largely with the comics code. So if, like prior to issue 35, so you can see this is when the comics code went into effect. So in August 1955, for this book at least. And then prior to that, there's a lot more horror content. And then after that, you start getting more of the sci-fi type content. But let's see. Oh yeah, this is the turnaround times I was talking about. Yeah, fast track. Or let's see, we can submit services and fees. I think I showed this in the last live stream too, but yeah, this is where you can see modern. It's 20 days or 10 with fast track. Economy is 235 days or 20. Standard is 50. I mean, I got my standard back in like 6 business days, maybe less than that, something like 6 business days. My express took a little longer. My walkthrough supposed to be 3 business days, but I'm up at like 9 now. And then the same thing with my magazine walkthrough. It says 5 now. It was at like 2 earlier, but now it says 5. It's a really slow walk is what it is. But yeah, I mean, look at this, 235 versus 20, $15. Pay that all day. And then, hey, from Australia. Yeah. Hey, thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, the company that owns CGC is huge. Yes. Blackstone or BlackRock. I don't remember what the specific one is. Oh, this is a big book here. This specific issue within the Thing run is one that sells for way more than all the other ones. I had it estimated at 1,500. Right now it's at 1,440. So it's right around where I would expect it to go. We'll see if it gets another bid or not. But yeah, oh, there it goes. So 1,560 now, and then 1,680. So that's, I mean, in grade, it's a record, but it hasn't sold in this grade for a long time. So but yeah, 1,680 is a really strong sale for that book. It's a cool cover. Again, it's got that black background. Now there's another run that's coming up that I've always thought is a really I call it like undervalued, underappreciated run. And I've been picking up a few issues from it lately. And that's This Magazine is Haunted. So that'll be coming up in a few, but I think they have some really great covers. I don't know how many of them are in this one, but there are some really cool covers in This Magazine is Haunted. I don't know if they have the really big one or not. Yes, they do. Yeah, issue 14 is the really big issue in this run. So just amazing, like skull and flames cover and everything. I mean, this is definitely like the marquee issue for this run. But yeah, that one. So let's see, that one's sitting at 2,100 right now. I estimated that one would go for 1,500. So it's already 600 above what I thought it would go for. So back to the chat. More like 14 months. And yes, I have some economy also. My CGC moderns are coming back real quick, even 9.8 pre-screen. Yeah, the moderns are crazy. I mean, you don't even need it. It used to be worthwhile to pay for the modern modern fast track, but it's not really anymore, I don't think. So let's see here. All right, so one more is the first one that I was watching for this one. So it's this magazine is Haunted number 4. We'll see how this one goes. While we're waiting, what is the most reasonably priced PCH right now? So I would say when you're talking about like really good covers, because there are some, not everything that's pre-code horror is great. You know, you can have crappy artist covers just like in anything, you know. But the ones that have some really good artists that are also pretty affordable right now, I mentioned earlier, is the Atlas, which is the precursor to Marvel. I mean, you've got a lot of really amazing covers in the different Atlas horror runs. So I mentioned a couple of those. Like, I mean, like Journey to Mystery was one, Strange Tales was one, but also Astonishing and Menace and Marvel Tales. And I think there are some others as well. But yeah, the Vault of Horror Christmas cover you showed is a Grail book of mine. Yeah, it's just such a cool cover. It really is. I can't believe this one's still going. Let's see here. Oh, that jumped up quick. Yeah, so I had estimated that one at 600. I was thinking of bidding on it because it looked like it might go cheap, but it did not. It jumped up real quick. It's already at 780, so that's a strong sale for that book. But yeah, I think there's some great covers in these ones. 5. I'll bid on that one. Yeah, someone's got a really big bid sitting on that one. I mean, it's also a Bethlehem pedigree, so this is a pedigree book. Yeah, so 780. I estimated this one would go for 900. It's sitting at 840 right now. If it gets one more bid, it'll hit that 900 number. Let's see if it does. But again, it's just a cool cover. You've got, you know, the woman in the red dress on the front. You've got, you know, this skeleton zombie guy coming out, kind of a cool yellow and red theme cover. So yeah, I think it's a cool cover. I have a raw copy that's really low grade, like a 1.5 or something like that. But I'm also planning on sending a Haunt of Fear 27 to CGC. It was bought from Torpedo as a 4.5, but I think it can get a bump. Yeah, you know, you never know. If you send it in to get pressed and cleaned, you can never know what those books can do. Oh shoot, I missed this one. So Crime 22 sold on Comic Link, 6.5, final bid 96.50. With BP, I think it puts it at 99.39. Okay, yeah, so around 10,000. That sounds about right. I think it, like if it had been a fixed price listing, I've seen a 6.5 where I made an offer. I think I offered like 9, maybe 6 months ago, and I was immediately dismissed. So I think they were asking like 11 or 12 for that one. So it all depends. But yeah, no, I'd say 10 is a strong sale for that book. But this is a pretty popular one. This kind of like, I think he's like fishing and he pulls up a head out of the water. I know this is a relatively in-demand book from this run. And anything outside of really low grade is pretty tough to come across. I mean, this has it as a 5.5, a fine minus, and I didn't end up. I had not priced this one out, so I don't know exactly how this is going, but feels like a pretty strong sale for that book. Now, I had priced the next one because I thought that was a really cool looking cover. But yeah, no, I had this one at 450, and it's going pretty strong. So let me show this cover. I just thought this was really cool. You got the skeleton with the noose, and looks like this guy is in trouble. But yeah, I just thought that was a really cool cover. There are a bunch of them in that run. As I said, this is one of those that I feel like, and it's from Fawcett. A lot of people don't think about horror with Fawcett. They think about, you know, like Wiz Comics, Captain Marvel Jr., the WoW comics, all that kind of stuff with Mary Marvel. They don't really think about horror so much. Then, all right. Then in two more, we've got the big one from this run coming up, the issue number 14, that skull cover. I had never seen that cover until maybe 6 or 8 months ago, because it wasn't really a run I was very familiar with. And that's one of the things I like about this, this Golden Age stuff, is that you still can come across things you haven't really seen before. There's just so many different, sections and parts of this area of the hobby. But yeah, big sale for that one. I had estimated at 1,500. It's at 2,640. So yeah, that was a really, and 2 more bids threw in. That person, they almost got it for 2,640, but now they're paying over 3,000 for it. 3,120, I think. And you can see how that kicked a bid in really quick. So somebody put in a bid before the auction, the live started, that was pretty high. Let's see here. Captain America Comics 74 is the horror book I want the most. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah, I love that book. That's one of my most recent keeper list books that I picked up on a heritage auction. I felt like it went for a good price, and I had the comic funds at the time to do it, because I have like my dedicated comic funds from selling of comics, and so I decided to go for it. And nobody bid back against me, so I ended up winning it, which is always that's one of those things that always makes you like a little nervous too. Like when you're buying a big book on an auction, is like, it's like you kind of want to win, but you're also nervous about winning it, because then you're like, I got to pay this bill. but I was pretty happy about winning that one. I remember that was the biggest book early on that I ever bought on a heritage auction was I have a Wonder Woman 1. It's a 0.5. It's missing, I think, 2 center wraps. But when I won that one, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So yeah, that's because then you've got to pay that bill. So that was one of those things that you definitely have to get used to with some of these. Oh, I can see my dog is outside in the window. But I'll let my wife handle that. Let's see. What are you eyeing for the November Platinum session? So for me, I mentioned this earlier, I don't really tend to bid in their signature Platinum auctions very often. So the reason being that they get really advertised, and so the prices tend to be really high, and they also tend to be books that are a lot more expensive, and so it's just not something that I'm usually not something that it's in my budget, and so I'm usually not really paying much attention to those. I mean, I pay attention to them in terms of like watching some of those big books. Like I like seeing those big books come up for sale, but I'm not usually pricing books out or looking to really participate in those auctions. And I really like this Tomb of Terror run. They don't have, this auction doesn't have like the big boy from this run. Like the big book from Tomb of Terror is issue 15. Let's see. Wow, 1,800. Or no, it's at 1,680. No, there's 1,800. This is a big sale for this book. I had this one at 950. I mean, it's a 9.0. I get it, but wow, that's a big sale. Then Tomb of Terror 16. I love this cover. This is actually my favorite cover from the run. Tomb of Terror 15 is the one everybody likes, but this is the one I like more. I actually like this cover more. I think it's because it's just a crazy view. Like the view on this cover. I'll save that one for later, but it's up at 1,440. Holy cow. Wow. That is a huge, I had this one at 800. That is a huge, huge sale for that book, which sucks because it's a book I want. And that means now it's going to be even more expensive when I want to try to get it. So here's the Tormented #1. A big sale for this one too, 780. I had this one at 450. I mean, some of these books are getting some really big numbers tonight. 900. that is, I mean, because it's a 2.0. I mean, it's a really nice looking 2.0. It's 2.0. I mean, that's a big number for that book in grade. All right, so let's look at that Tomb of Terror. So this is the Tomb of Terror book. This is a Lee Elias cover. And yeah, I mean, you've got the skull, you've got the zombie, you've got the drowning type cover, you've got the woman in the red dress in the background, you've got a black cover. You've got so many elements in this one that are really, really good for pre-code horror. Um, so yeah, I think this is an awesome one. But let's see. Oh, first half. Okay, that's going back to the, when are they going to start doing pulps? First half of 2023. Okay, all right, that makes sense now. Let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling through comments here. And my dogs are coming down into the room. All right. Let's see here. Didn't Nick Cage get a dinosaur skull at one point? Yes, he had I think it was like him and was it Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, that were like bidding on a Tyrannosaurus Rex skull or something like that. It was something crazy like that. When you have enough money, I guess it doesn't really matter. So I think it was like $10 million. It was some crazy number like that, if I remember correctly. Have you ever heard of the Foot Locker collection? Recently purchased a book with a certificate from Quality Comics. No, I have not ever heard of the Foot Locker collection. I mean, and it's the thing, like sometimes I'll get books and they come with like a little, like whatever it is, like a certificate that says it's from some collection. In general, that doesn't really do much for the value of the book. Even pedigrees, there are a number of pedigrees that don't really add value to the book on top of it just being a high grade copy. There are certain pedigrees that do. There are some pedigrees that definitely add value to a book. Like the Mile High pedigree adds a lot. It's the most famous pedigree of all time. I mean, Mile High pedigree adds value to a book. Big ones like the Davis Crippen pedigree adds value to a book. Ones that have really like kind of like heartwarming or sad stories tied to them, like the San Francisco pedigree and the Promise Collection pedigree, which are very similar. Basically, somebody that was a collector that ended up being drafted or went off to war and they didn't come back. Those pedigrees tend to add a lot of value. The one that probably adds the most is the Okajima pedigree. That's one where it was a woman that was collecting these comics while she was in one of the Japanese internment camps in the US. That one sells for multiples. Like the books, especially the books that she collected while she was in the camp, sell for, I mean, it's like 4, 5, 6 times what a universal copy, a normal universal copy would sell for. So there are definitely ones where the pedigrees add a lot, but then there are others that they don't nearly as much. There are more popular and less popular pedigrees. But in 2 books, there's a pretty big book that's coming up. And I'm excited to see what this one goes for. It's actually this book right over here, this Underworld Crime 7. So if you haven't seen this one before, this is this like crime torture cover where they've got this like hot poker that they're threatening her with. But it's probably my favorite crime cover of the Golden Age. I just really like how I think the colorist is the person who really did a great job with that one. I mean, I like the art, but the colorist just made it look the way you can see the fear on their faces, just the way that they lit up her face with the light from the poker and everything. I think it's an awesome cover. But the copy that's coming up is actually a pretty high grade. So that one's a 3.0. The one that's coming up is a 5.5. So I'll be interested to see because it's a little low right now. So I don't know if it's gonna jump or what. So it'll be interesting to see what this one does. Now this one that's coming up does have a store stamp on it, which normally I don't mind all that much. I actually like things like date stamps. but it's what's called a bonnet store stamp, which are pretty big. I mean, so it got a decent jump there, but still only 4,800. I mean, I figured this one would go for around 7,500. This feels really low. We'll see if it gets more bids. I mean, if I hadn't just bought a bunch of stuff, I'd be bidding on this one right now. But because this still feels low. But I'll show you what I mean. You can kind of see it in the picture there about the store stamp. But I mean, it's getting a couple more bids. But yeah, I feel like that one went really cheap. I think someone got a good deal on that one. But the thing that you can see here, so it went for 5,520. I thought it would go for 7,500. I mean, prior record was 860, but I mean, that was probably many, many years ago. So Underworld Crime 7. So let's see, when did that last 5.5 sell? So that was 2014. So it was 8 years ago. But you had a 5.0 sell for 7,200 in January. Last year, you had a 4.5 sell for 5,377. And so this one went for, I mean, just barely above what the 4.5 went for. And this was a 5.5. Now, it is a really, it's one of those things. It's like, it is a really nice looking copy, but that is a large store stamp. And it's, it's like, it's right in the middle of the image where it takes away from it. And so I can see why maybe that would deter some bidders, but I still think whoever got this got a great deal. I mean, this is an impossibly difficult book. Like how many are, only 43 on census, a 5.5. There are 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, only 7 higher than that 5.5. So I think somebody got a great deal on that book. I think that was a steal. Let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling through the. Bry had an early error Disney print pickup recently. Yeah, I saw that. I actually bought a couple of the books from that collection of books. They are in a box over here right now, and they will be in an unboxing video at some point. 2 books that are going to my keeper list. And if you watch my channel, I don't add books to the keeper list very often, but I added 2 books that are definitely going to my keeper list. So yeah. So I always tell people, watch, everywhere you can. You never know who's going to come across that book you're looking for, especially if you're interested in the Golden Age. You never know when that book is going to pop up. And these are 2 Golden Age books, and I'm very happy to add those. But yeah, I saw that misprint Disney book. I don't even know how do you price books like that. It's like one of a kind type books. It was like printed. It was like the back cover was printed on top of the front cover, or it was like the back cover from another book was printed on the front cover, something weird like that. But let's see. Witch's Tales 11 is the Grail of the Golden Age. Has bondage, red dress, good girl, horror, etc. I can't think of which one that is. I know Witch's Tales 25 is one of the real. That's like the big book from that run. Oh, I saw. I saw. I don't know if anybody watches. He's got a huge channel for Pops, but he also has a channel called Pop Comics. He does some great haul videos, and he went to New York Comic Con, and I think he picked up a restored copy of this book. But yeah, I love watching his channel because he just gets all these books and he just goes through them one after another, and it's, I don't know, and they're longer videos, so I just like sitting there and kind of leaving it run, and I love watching those. So if you like that kind of stuff, I definitely recommend checking out and subscribing to his comic channel. But yeah, it's called Pop Comics. Let's see. Hey Swag, you and Ryan have been talking a lot about PCH recently. What are your favorite Golden Age crime books? That one. the Underworld 7 is my favorite Golden Age crime book. But there are a number of pretty gruesome ones that you might consider. You could call either golden age crime or pre-code horror. Uh, let's see. I'm a person that sometimes I remember based on cover instead of based on issue number. So there's the one where you've got, they're always super violent. The ones that are big. There's the Lawbreaker Suspense Stories 11. I think it's 11. I don't like the cover actually. I think it's too violent. It creeps me out. Yeah, 11. I don't know if you haven't seen this one. Basically, this guy has taken all these people in the basement and cut out their tongues, and he is showing her their tongues and telling her that, he knows she's a mute and she can't scream, but they can't scream either because he cut out their tongues. And it's a gruesome, horrible cover. But this is one of those very expensive crime type covers that it's that cross between horror and crime. But yeah, there are a few of those those tend to be the ones that there's like I can't remember what it is, the one where a guy's like dumping a body into like a sewer, sewer cover, that kind of stuff. This is one I was looking at too, I think. Unseen 5. Yeah, I'll bit on that one. No, but yeah, I thought this was a cool cover. I remember I've seen this. I've come across this book a few times. Just think you've got this like tree that's growing. You've got the skeletons and all this kind of stuff. It's just a creepy cover. I always feel like it should sell for more. You would think this one would sell for more than it does. But let's see. Yeah, see, I have people tell me this all the time, but I have successfully sold books time and time again with this. So it does not set the new fair market value. That is not, I mean, honestly, that's not how it works. And I've bought and sold comics for years now. And people think that, and you'll have people that will be like, oh, you bought the book for this, I want it for that from you. And you just go, it's fine. You're not the person I'm going to sell this book to. But yeah, I have had people tell me that before, but it's really not the case. Especially when you're talking about rare books like Golden Age books, I mean, it is what it is. What's available is what's available. And so yeah, the books get pulled into those pricing sites, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is now the price. It doesn't really work that way. But yeah, I mean, I understand. And if you're talking about, actually, I wouldn't even say with bronze and silver, it just doesn't really work that way. Prior price does not equal future price. Let's see. I follow Dragon Ink Comics, and he's a big Captain Marvel fan. How does one price those kinds of books? I sold Dragon Ink his copy of First Starman that he has. So yeah, I follow him as well. I mean, for pricing Captain Marvel books, it really comes down to I mean, it's like you price any Golden Age book. It's kind of a skill you have to pick up. There's a lot of different ways that you have to learn to estimate the prices, but it you generally can't count on the grade that you have having sold recently. That's usually not how it works. You usually have to use grades that are nearby and estimate based on either something like price per point or something like that, where it's like price per point is like, if a 5.0 sold for $1,000, it's 200 per point. So 6.0 might go for like 1,200 or maybe a little more, because the higher the grade, it's more rare. So maybe 1,250. That's the kind of thing you have to try to do with estimating Golden Age books. It's not perfect, but you don't really have any other choices. So that's kind of how I end up pricing that kind of stuff. Let's see. Black Cat 50. Yeah. So Black Cat 50 is my favorite PCH book. That's actually the one that I talked about in my video today for the iconic Lee Elias cover was Black Cat 50. Yeah, and it's one of those that I know it's really popular, but it's almost like it's too violent for me. I like I think I tend to like more the implied violence covers than the actual violence covers. But I know the actual violence ones are the ones that tend to sell for more. But that's just me. It's one of the things we talked about in my. It's one of the things that we talked about in that video was it's like, can you put this on the shelf when you have people over at the house? And there's certain books that I think you're going to get some weird looks, if you have it up on the shelf, and there's other ones that people might think are okay. Um, and yes, I am reading the chat. I know I'm way behind on the chat. I'm trying to catch up as much as I can. I think maybe I have caught up. Shock Suspense Stories 6 is one of my favorites. Yes, Shock Suspense Stories 6 is an amazing cover. If you're not familiar with that one, I can show. Let's see. It's almost like it's an homage to Suspense 3. It's got a similar feel to it. But this is Shock Suspense Stories 6. But yeah, much later than Suspense Comics 3, the one that I showed earlier, but it has that similar type of feel to that one. Let's see here. Scene 15. I think I was watching this one. I had it at 400 and it's right at 400. So it's going for about what I expected it to. But yeah, I mean, there's a few other big books coming up later tonight. I don't think I'll get to them while I'm still on. There's a Witch's Tales 25 that's coming up. I actually picked up a copy of this recently. Witch's Tales 25 is a pretty crazy cover. It looks like a Lee Elias cover, but it isn't. This one here. So yeah, you've got this person ringing this bell, and then you've got the head in there. So yeah, it's one of these. I mean, it is a crazy cover. It's almost like a little too violent for me, but I get it. And it's got the black, the general black background. This is really the book from the Witch's Tales run that gets the most attention. Venus has this Venus run has some really big books in it. I think it's Venus 19. So this is 18. But I think Venus 19 is a monster book. It's one of the most expensive pre-code horror books. Yeah, Venus 19. So, well, first, yeah, just so you can see it. So this is Venus 19. I think it's an Everett cover. Yeah, Bill Everett. Yep. So Venus 19. Crazy skull cover. There was a Comic Connect sale it was like a 3.0 for like 30,000, I think. It was something nuts. I talked about it in, I think, some other video. Let's see. I don't know if they pulled that one into this one. Yeah. Oh, it was this one. It was this 5.5 that went for 28,000. Just, I in no way expected that sale. That sale was a big one. But yeah, this was a Comic Connect 5.5, 28,750. Just huge sale for that book. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean that's fine if you have been, but I know from my experience that it does not set the fair market value. You will have people that try to tell you that, but it's not accurate. Let's see. If you were collecting PCH at the time, you were probably hiding them from mom. Yeah. Oh, I almost guarantee it. I always wonder about that. Like let's see if I can find the copy on on eBay. It's probably still up. Let's see here. So need to price highest first. Yeah, this copy. I always laugh at this copy. It's like it's missing the whole part of the cup. Like, so this is, I mean, if you're not familiar with this book, this is what it's supposed to look like. You know, you've got the super violent part on the bottom half of the cover where it's the decapitated cover or decapitated head, all that kind of stuff. But then this one, I just assume a mom, I just assume the mom found this and just tore the bottom off of the cover. But yeah, oh, gosh. Yeah, I think this one is so funny just because it's just the best part of the cover is missing. And yeah, it's a 0.5, but and I think it's white pages too. But oh. But yeah, there are, let's see, there's some good voodoo covers too. This one is an interesting run. I think it's another one that just it's tough to find these books. You don't come across them very much. I think this is a pretty expensive one. Voodoo 8. I only had it. I had it at 400, but it's already up over 800. So really strong sale with that one. But yeah, that's what I said. Like a mom definitely found that book. I'm sure that's what happened. That that a mom found that book and she just ripped off the bottom part of that cover. But yeah, Venus 19. It's a cool cover. I agree. I think it's a really cool cover. I don't get why that one sells for so much more. I mean, I feel like there are a lot of great like skull covers, and that one for whatever reason sells for way more than a lot of the other ones that are around it. I mean, that 5, I don't know how long that, or I don't know if that 5.5 sale, that $28,000 sale will carry over to other sales if it was just like that one kind of like fluke high sale. That's where it's tough to tell. We won't know until we get some more copies come up for sale. But I mean, that was I mean, you could see it on the, actually this next one's a really cool one too. So you got Voodoo number 15. I just thought this was a really cool cover. You got the skull cover and then the eyes there and everything. But yeah. Elite Comics and Cards. Hey, thanks for joining the chat. Yeah, we've been going for around 2 hours. We got around 50 people in the chat. Appreciate everybody joining and providing comments and all that kind of stuff. I actually think there's I'm about to I won't end it yet. So we'll I picked up a book recently. So that's this one here. And it is a pre-code horror book. I thought it would be cool to I'll try to open this away from the mic so not too loud. But I thought it'd be cool to show this one. And this is a CBCS. This is an example of one where I like, honestly, I kind of like it when I come across these Golden Age CBCS books because it gives me a chance to pick them up for a good price sometimes. And so this is from a run that I had been talking about. And this is from the run Menace. And so this is Menace Comics number 6. And so you can see you've got this this just zombie ghoul type guy that's it's like he's in a well and he's pulling this guy off the wall. This guy's trying to get out. But the cool thing about this one is also signed by John Romita. And because this has interior art, the cover was done by Bill Everett, but the interior art is John Romita. And so, I mean, you've got these artists that are known for their Marvel work. I mean, this is Atlas. This is a precursor to Marvel. And so you've got these artists that ended up being at Marvel and drawing Spider-Man and everybody and all those other big characters that everybody knows. But they, a lot of them started in like this horror and sci-fi work. And so I thought that was really cool. And I felt like this was I felt like I got a pretty good deal on it just because it was a CBCS book. And I just think that's crazy because I mean, it's the book. You're not buying the case. You're buying the book. And it was even a witness signature. It wasn't even the verified, where they use the verified program. So it was even a witness signature for it. So yeah, I thought this was a really cool book, and just an example of one of those. I feel like I get a deal picking up a CBCS book. But there are some really cool covers in the Menace run, and there's actually some what I'd call keys in the Menace run, some actual Golden Age keys. So Menace 9 is a book I picked up recently, which I would call a Golden Age key, and awesome cover. But the reason is I call it the first appearance of The Walking Dead. You've got the Walking Dead on the cover there, and so I always thought that was really cool. And then the other one is, I think it's Menace number 5. Yeah, and I call it kind of like the first zombie. You've got the zombie on the cover there, again, black background, and just awesome cover. And so, yeah, I mean, these are the types of runs that are fun to come across, because you don't see them very often, but they have some really cool covers from Atlas. They're getting pricier, but they're still relatively affordable. So yeah, definitely Atlas books are ones that I would be keeping a lookout for. But yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's such a cool book too. I like those, the black backgrounds on the pre-code horror books just always sell it to me, or for me. So let's see. So that's the blue color I like in Voodoo. Well, which one are you referring to? Can you go back to that one? Let's see here. Oh, this one? Yeah, that's a cool background. I agree. I really like this type of color as well. When you see those unique colors that you don't come across very often, it's always fun for those. Like, there's another one called, shoot. Is it Strange? I think it's Strange. Yeah, Strange Worlds. So if you like that blue color, this is another one you might want to look for. This is like a sci-fi Good Girl Art type cover. I have a copy of this at CGC right now. This is Strange Worlds number 5. Has a very similar color background as this Voodoo number 12. So if that's something you like, that color, then that would be another book that you might want to be on the lookout for. But I think this is like the number 2 book in this run. Strange Worlds number 4 is this one. This is what I would call the number 1 book in that run. It's a Wally Wood cover. Strange Worlds 5 is also a Wally Wood cover. But yeah, if that's something you're interested in, those colors, then that would be a book I'd be looking for. Yeah, there are a number of so for Elite Comics and Cards, there are a number of great Disney books out there. The tough part with Disney is that it's been around for a really long time. So there's a lot of books. And so you if you're looking for ones that, it all depends what you're wanting to purchase for. If you're looking for something that's kind of like value or whatever for the book, for like Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, you want to go for the earlier issues, or the Carl Barks issues, or the World War II Bond cover issues, like issues 1 through 12. There's always demand for those, tons of demand for those books. But then there's also those few keys out there, like First Scrooge McDuck, and what is it? There's like First Beagle Boys, and all that kind of thing. So definitely things to keep an eye out for. But yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully you're able to, just put that one on a watch list. That's always the thing with Golden Age. You kind of have to like put watch lists together on whether it's on, it could be like Torpedo or Super World or eBay or whatever it might be. And then if that book pops up for sale, that's when you have your chance to go get it. Cause otherwise you can't often just go out and find it. And that's one of the really, to me, the fun parts about the Golden Age is that you can't just go out and buy the book anytime you want. It's always a big selling point to me. But yeah, we've been on a little over 2 hours. I really appreciate everybody joining the chat, all the comments and everything. It's been fun talking with everybody. Hopefully you saw some cool books that you maybe hadn't come across before, had any experience with before, and maybe got some interest in the Golden Age, that kind of thing. And remember, keep an eye out for like these Menace books. There's got some really cool covers in the Menace run. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining the chat. I'm gonna end the stream now. But remember, we've got Mickey with Swaggle Comics, Drew with Como Comics, and myself. We've got videos out right now that we're going over iconic pre-code horror covers. And then in a couple days, we're going to be dropping another video, which are kind of like the undervalued horror covers for those artists as well. So keep an eye out for that video in a couple days as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining the chat. It's been a lot of fun, and see you in the next one.